So my name is Anton Blijlevens. I'm a partner at AJ Park here in the Auckland office. Welcome to this seminar on doing business in China. You're going to hear a little bit from me on IP law in China and how it's changed over time, and some tricks and tips. And after my presentation, you're going to hear from Paul OBrien. Paul OBrien is the current CEO of OnePure, which is the water that you've been drinking in between your alcoholic beverages, or that you should be drinking alternately. He used to be the CEO of EasyO and has had a vast amount of experience in exporting product into China, and has got some great stories and 10 commandments that he's developed over time. So I'll introduce Paul after I've presented. So I'm going to be about half an hour. So I'm, as I mentioned, a partner here in the Auckland office, but together with John Hackett, who's sitting here at the back, we created a China desk at AJ Park because we were finding more and more of our clients were asking us about export opportunities in China. And we decided that we needed to educate our clients and also to educate ourselves. And now John and I go up to China once, sometimes twice a year, probably spend in total about 4 weeks in China, talking with IP firms that we work with, and also with our clients on the ground in China, to help understand doing business in China, so that we can relay that information back to our clients here. We're also seeing more and more Chinese firms protecting their intellectual property rights around the world, including in Australia and New Zealand. So companies like Huawei and ZTE, Tencent are now spreading their wings and are innovating and are relying on IP protection for their business strategy. So there's quite a few patents being filed and trademarks being filed around the world by Chinese brands. And in fact, China is now the second highest user of the European patent system. So Chinese companies are really making the most of that. And I'll come to some statistics in a minute. Okay, so doing business in China, it's a huge country. And someone has likened it to being like Europe. It's not really just one country, it's kind of like multiple states within a big country. It's very competitive and sophisticated, and there's lots of rewards up there for businesses that are doing it right. But it also comes with a lot of risk. You would have seen the share market crash there in September. Intellectual property enforcement is pretty good up there, but trying to catch the infringers is still a big problem. And then there are also rapid changes in the regulatory environment up there. But China is certainly shifting from a country that was purely there for being used as a factory to the rest of the world, to now being quite innovative. The government is pouring millions or billions of dollars into fostering domestic R&D, innovation and protection. And so there's companies such as Xiaomi, Alibaba, Huawei, Tencent, Haier, which are some of the brands that we're now starting to become familiar with in our part of the world, because they are active down here. And Haier is now controlling shareholder of Fisher & Paykel Appliances. So they are becoming well known. My feeling is that for some international brands to make it in China, it's now or never. Chinese people like us are very proud of their country, and they are looking to buy China-made, particularly now that a lot more product is being put on offer to the Chinese population. But New Zealand is pretty fortunate. We were the first country in the world to have a free trade agreement with China. So we've been friends with China for quite a long time. And certainly for the food and beverage sector, where the perception of being clean and green and healthy is really helping with companies in that sector make it into China. And here is an interesting slide showing primary exports into China over time. And you can see in 2008 is when we signed the free trade agreement with China. There was exponential growth in some of our exports going over there. So China's intellectual property system, it's changed a lot. It's very young. It's only been around for 30 years. And I'll have a few bits of information about that on the next slide. It's very young, and as a result, it's changed quite quickly. But China realized that to foster a domestic economy and to encourage foreign direct investment, they needed to have intellectual property laws. And a little bit like Myanmar at the moment, they're trying to encourage people to set up factories in Myanmar, and they're now working on intellectual property laws to give those companies certainty in terms of counterfeiting products and trade secret theft. So that's changing. In China, they like to make plans for the future, and I'll have a few slides on some 5-year plans that they have now implemented. And there is a heavy focus on innovation, research and development, and intellectual property in those. Like everything in China, the numbers are really staggering. China is now the country where the most number of patents are being filed around the world. In 2013, there was about 700,000 patents being filed in China. That compares to around about 600,000 in the United States and only 6,000 in New Zealand. But it's a big country, so people are looking for opportunities there and relying on their intellectual property rights to support those opportunities. Enforcement has been traditionally weak in China, but over time that has improved. The thing that's still a problem in China is catching IP infringers. It's a big country, and in some industries it's fairly quick and simple to retool, abandon your production tools and go and set up in another city and be up and running within a matter of weeks, carrying on supplying or making counterfeit products. We had a seminar here 2 weeks ago, which was more about brand protection in China. This seminar is more on the product side, how to get product in and out of China, which Paul will talk about. When we talked about the brand strategies in China, we talked here about trademark squatting, which is where opportunists see foreign brands and register those brands in China and in some other countries as well. And then when the original brand owner turns up to that country to sell products, the first thing that they're faced with is trademark infringement. Someone else owns the registered trademark in China for that brand, and quite a few New Zealand companies have been caught out. They are asked by the brand owner, well, you can pay me some money and we'll sell your trademark back. But sometimes it's a huge amount, and some of our clients have chosen to rebrand just for the Chinese market because of the expense of trying to win and the uncertainty of trying to win the trademark back. But all sorts of other forms of intellectual property rights are being squatted on up there. It's a bit like domain name squatting back in the late 90s. People are registering bmw.co.nz, hoping that BMW would turn up to New Zealand and want that domain name themselves. So as I mentioned, the laws are very young. It wasn't until the early 80s that they had what are considered modern intellectual property laws. They joined the World Intellectual Property Office at that stage, and it wasn't until 1982 that they had a proper functioning trademark registration system. And a few years later, the patent system came about. And I had a look on our records database, and we'd actually filed some of the earlier trademark and patent registrations in China for our clients here in New Zealand, not long after the laws were created to do so. And even in 2002, things weren't quite that rosy there with intellectual property rights. Enforcement laws were very, very weak. Yes, it was easy to register, or relatively easy and predictable to register your IP rights, but enforcement was still a problem. And even until 2006, that was a problem. But now enforcement laws are really, really good in China. There are more options available in terms of enforcement. Some of those options are a lot cheaper than they are here. There are patent courts in China, so there are dedicated judges that just look at patent infringement matters. Whereas here, if you go to court for a patent infringement matter, you go into the High Court and you'll be in front of a judge that one day was dealing with a commercial lease agreement and the next day with technical patent subject matter. So they've had lots of 5-year plans over the last decade or two where there's been some significant content around intellectual property and research and development. At the moment, they're working on the 2016 to 2020 plan, and they're meeting next week to go over that. But here are some of the highlights from the plan that they are working to at the moment. So they're talking about sustainable growth and innovation. They're $600 billion they're looking to invest or have invested to support innovation. John and I go to a tech park in Tianjin, which is a 30-minute bullet train ride from Beijing, And there, this tech park has got 2,000 residents in it, and there are 10 companies that are bigger than Feature Building in that tech park. So you can quickly see the scale of things over there, and that's just in one part of that city. So they're looking to transition from being purely a factory to the world to an economy that can be sustainable based on domestic consumption. And they're looking to invest a lot of money and have done so in some particular sectors of the economy and in industries such as renewable clean energy, environmental protection technology, biotechnology, new materials, and the IT and high-tech manufacturing sectors. So that's creating quite a few opportunities for New Zealand clients, and we've seen a few clients up there based on the connections that we've made to look for opportunities. So here are some statistics. So here is a bar graph showing patent filing numbers around the world, and this is in 2012, and you can see China is clearly leading. What's interesting is that the proportion of Chinese patent applications being filed in China by Chinese people is substantial. And to some extent, that the numbers there in China are artificial, like in many other statistics that are being collected in China. The government is really incentivizing companies to file for patent protection in China. And so some of the patents that are being filed are fairly poor quality. They lack novelty. They probably would never stand up in court. But that makes the numbers look good. There are financial incentives for companies to do that. If you want to know where New Zealand ranks, we're on the next slide. So we sit at number 20, around about 7,000. And the proportion is quite different. Most patents that are being filed in New Zealand are owned by foreign companies. And that's, we do quite a bit of patent registration work here in New Zealand for our New Zealand clients, but most of our clients are interested in the export market, so we're protecting their IP around the world for them to do that. Often New Zealand companies rely on that first mover advantage here. They're close to market, can react quickly, but IP protection really kicks in when you're a bit further away from the market and your market opportunities are a lot bigger. Another graph. So this is just showing patent filing numbers over time for different countries, and you can see, you can guess which one China is, even without looking at the legend on the right. So this is the 50-year plan in draft form that they are working to at the moment, and it's continuing on the theme of innovation, spending money on research and development, but also environmental concerns are kicking in. The pollution levels in Beijing and Shanghai and Guangzhou are pretty terrible, and so there is concerns around that. So companies with clean tech innovations, they're really interested in that sort of area of technology. So it's kind of more of the same, and more investment in R&D, and it's the invented in China. The invented in China sort of mantra that they're looking to develop. Okay, so enforcement in China. So intellectual property rights, even though you might be able to register them, they've got no value unless there are enforcement laws in place. So China's enforcement laws have come a long way over the last 10 years. Probably, 10, 15 years ago, the main strategic reason for filing intellectual property protection for our clients in China was to deal with the counterfeit problem. But now, because there is a growing domestic market for New Zealand products in China, there are now other strategies for filing intellectual property protection up there. But without registered intellectual property protection, it's really difficult in China to enforce your IP rights. There are no unregistered trademark rights in China like there are here. Copyright, unless it's registered, is very difficult to enforce. So if you have some important intellectual property rights that are going to help you support your business in China, then you really consider registering them. For a trademark, you're probably talking about $2,000 or $3,000 to register a trademark in China, which is a lot less than what a trademark squatter is going to ask you for to buy your trademark back off them, if you can. The other thing that we've been helping our clients with is IP enforcement at trade fairs. So I mentioned that enforcement laws are really good, and there are quite a number of different options, including at trade fairs. Patent offices have now set up help desks at the bigger trade fairs, where as an owner of a registered trademark in China or a registered design, you can enforce your rights pretty quickly. So if you find that there is some counterfeit product being displayed at another stand, and you have your certificate of registration in hand, you can go to this help desk, and within a day they will have addressed the infringement issue that's happening. You know, it's sort of the tip of the iceberg, but it's not expensive and can be quite swift. Some of these trade fairs are quite amazing. They're huge. It's, the Canton Fair is enormous, and I was talking to a client not far from here who took up some products up there to display at the fair, and they printed off some very expensive glossy brochures that they took up with them, and within a day of the 4-day fair, all the brochures had gone, and they were worried that either the product was going to sell like hotcakes or there'd be copy product on the market the next day, because these brochures had fairly detailed drawings of their product in them, or images. One of the Kiwi guys here went out the back for a smoke, and quickly realised why the brochures had disappeared so quickly. There was a guy stuffing them into a paper shredder. Okay, so these people had seen an opportunity to make some quick money on the waste paper market, and his brochures were going through the paper shredder and being sold as waste paper. So the premonitions about being ripped off or the product being a huge success were way off track. And it's not until you go there and actually see what's happening that you understand the place. And you know, if you're going to do business up there, you really need to go and have a look. So who's this guy? I know who this character is. His name is Walter White. So he's from the TV series called Breaking Bad. Yeah. It was quite an addictive TV series. But his story is he's a character in this series. High school chemistry teacher diagnosed with cancer, and he realizes that he's got some pretty unique chemistry skills, and turns to cooking crystal meth. And to make some money for his family after he passes away. So he makes the highest purity of crystal meth anywhere in the world, and some of the drug lords quickly find out that he is the guy behind making this product, and they get to know him, and they want to know him really well, including what's inside of his head. So he had lots of trade secrets, and he realized that he had to keep his formulation and his process as a trade secret, because his life started to depend on it. If that trade secret information was leaked, other people would be able to make the same product at the same quality, and his life would potentially be over. So that brings me on to trade secrets, ironically, and dealing with manufacturers in China. So if you're going up to China and you're looking to have someone contract manufacture your product, understand what intellectual property rights you've got and what intellectual property rights you need to control, so that you're not necessarily giving away all of the secret sauce in sharing your information with the people that need to know how to make your product. So it's important to understand your IP and what your competitive advantage is. Having registered IP helps, because it helps keep your contract manufacturers honest. A certificate of registration for a patent has got a big red seal on the front with a picture of the Forbidden City, which itself is fairly revered in China, and intellectual property laws are pretty strong, and enforcement is pretty good. So that's one way of helping keep your contract manufacturers honest. There are other ways of engaging with manufacturers if you don't have intellectual property rights. Consider having one manufacturer make one component of your product and another manufacturer make another component of your product. And the two manufacturers will never know exactly what it is that they're making. Of course, until the product hits the market, they will. Or consider installing the secret source, the embedded software or programming, the technology back here in New Zealand, or having someone that you know and trust do that part of the manufacturing process in China for you. So there are ways of managing your trade secrets and IP rights without having to register them. But for some products, it's pretty impossible. You know, as soon as the product hits the shelves, it's easy to reverse engineer. what some people don't realise is that it's often your own contract manufacturers that are selling, manufacturing and selling the counterfeit product. They're just doing night shift overruns, using the same production tooling, labelling the product the same way, but it's going in a different shipping container out of the country. So, like any business deal or business arrangement, you've got to understand who it is that you're dealing with. Chinese culture is such that, and we found this trying to do business ourselves up there, it's that you need to get to know the people that you're doing business with. They want to know you before they'll do business with you. So we've been going up there for 4 or 5 years now, maybe a bit longer, getting to know the people that we are wanting to do business with. And it's a slow but steady approach that we're taking, and it's starting to pay dividends. Okay, so I've covered a few of these points already. Chinese contracts, Paul's going to touch on that in a bit more detail, so I'm not going to talk too much about contracts, other than ensuring that you have a contract that it can be in English or in Chinese, preferably in Chinese, and have a good English translation of it. Ensure that the reed seal is taken out, and the company's signature or the legal representative signature of that company appears on the document. And there are some other tricks and tips that Paul will share with you. So, as I mentioned, go up there. Don't expect China to do business our way. It's a big country. They've been doing business for a long time, and we really need to adapt and learn to do business their way. Understand the value in the intellectual property that you've got, that you're taking up there, and protect it. If it's trade secrets, don't share all of the secret formula. If it's registered IP, then that's really good. Okay. So at AJ Park, we've been doing business in China with our clients for many years now, and we know what the tricks and tips are in terms of enforcing contracts. And intellectual property protection up there. So we can help you with negotiating licenses, manufacturing agreements, and also to help find opportunities in China. So we're up there talking to IP firms, and often the IP firms are asking us, hey, we've got clients that are working on some technology, and they've had a roadblock, or they're looking to partner up with someone. Do you have any clients that might be interested in a joint venture with our clients? So so keeping our ears to the ground for our clients to look for opportunities is something that we do up there as well. Okay, so now I'm going to hand you over to Paul, who is going to talk to you about his 10 commandments. Paul.
Thanks everybody, and I'd like to acknowledge in particular our sponsors. AJ Park, I can see John down the back there. Just stand up, John. About 30 years ago, he got me in a room, and 30 years ago, and gave me a beat up on IP, and I've never forgotten it. So John's a good guy if you want some help, as well as Anton, and also BNZ. Thanks for a great place such as this. Now, first I'd like to say I'm not an expert on China. Okay, China's a big, difficult place. I'm not an expert, but I'm a seasoned campaigner. I've got the blood nose, and I've got the skin knees. And I've been in lots of problems, lots of issues in China, and I've got lots of stories to tell you. Some of them pretty scary. So this is not a beat up on China, okay? I love China. I'm very respectful of the Chinese people, but I've got some scary stories that hopefully will make you really think about it. I've got some prizes later for those of you who can pay attention for half an hour. I've got some nice samples of our water over here. And just before I start, I've got some facts on this whiteboard here, and I want to talk to you about these facts firstly, because people tell me there's a bit of a slowdown in China, and I think rubbish. I don't see any slowdown in China, and in food and beverage, I think food and beverage is just stunningly attractive. Now this first figure here, 10 million. What that means is there's 10 million country folk moving into the city every year in China. So that's 10 million people who are rural, relatively poor. They're moving in and they're becoming middle class, okay? And then the middle class becoming upper middle class. So The second figure here is 7%. It's actually 6.9 is the current GDP rate. Now don't forget 6.9% GDP is a big number on top of a big number, right? You know, there's trillions of dollars of GDP growth, and that 6.9 or 7% is just churning away. So it's not slowing down. And the reason why the Chinese government are really keen to see the 7% keep going is it means there's plenty of employment, right? And the Chinese government do not want to see high unemployment. It's not a good look, right? So Beijing are investing, and investing, as Damon showed you, all those trillions of dollars are going to fueling consumption in that economy. Keeps the 10%. It keeps the unemployment at a low level, and these 10 million people are flowing every year into the cities to drive consumption. So they don't consume much in the country, but they start consuming in the cities. Now the last figure there, 40%, that's our government's goal to get 40% so 40% should be, our exports should be 40% of our GDP, and right now they're just over 30. So if New Zealand if us folk here today can go and sell more overseas, we're helping that figure there. And right now we're a little bit behind because of dairy. You saw that big dairy spike, and that's plateaued off. So it's incumbent on all of us to try and export more, so that by 2025, 40% of our GDP is exports. And if that happens, we're going to be a seriously wealthy company. Two other little points there. APEC. Does anyone know about an APEC card? An APEC card is a card you can apply for when you travel overseas, and it is a little gem. It is a bonza little card. So when you land in Beijing, you got one, John? Yeah. When you land in Beijing at 5 in the morning and there's 4 other flights, you take your little card and you can go through the airline where the captain goes, right? The captain and crew, you're allowed through there. So it's for dignitaries, celebrities, pop stars. So this little APEC card gets you through, and there's thousands of people, right, in the immigration hall. You're allowed to go through with the captain and the crew, right? Stunningly good card. There's only one problem though, when you get in there, you've got to wait for your bag. So, but that APEC card, it costs you stuff all, a couple $100. Also for China means you don't need a visa, because once you got the APEC card, you never worry about visas. You just hop on a plane and go. It costs a couple $100, and it's good for 2 years, I think. 3, is it? Yeah, okay. But there's one little catch, is that you can't automatically renew it. You've got to go through there's one at the back. Thank you. You've got to go through the same process again.
Who do you talk to get one?
What's that?
Who do you apply?
It's Department of Internal Affairs. Internal Affairs. Just Google APEC card. That's a stunning one. And you can bring your wife and friends and visitors. You all go through on the same card.
Works for about another 50 or 60 countries as well, like
Yeah,
Thailand
that's right.
and
Yeah,
everything there
yeah.
as well. No visas.
USA.
Yeah, USA.
Just jump on an airplane with a passport.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's a great little card. And last one here, Dakai. I've promised to give a little plug for Dakai. She spoke, the lady from Dakai spoke at one of our earlier functions. I didn't hear it myself, but I hear it's really good. She does social media help in China. So daki.co.nz. Small company, but really passionate about helping young exporters with social media help. Okay, so give her a go. Right, should we get into the commandments? So I'm a good Catholic boy from Tiamutu, hence the 10 commandments. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through 10 of them, and I've shown this presentation to probably 400 or 500 exporters, and I haven't had any grief about these commandments. So I hope it doesn't start now. So a lot of them is common sense, but I've got stories behind each one to illustrate how important they are. Now the first one is contracts, and again this is my experience with Good Health, with EasyGo, with TSM, and a little bit of dairy. But my experience is contracts are a waste of time. Okay, the Chinese culture is very much about the contract is the start of the negotiation. Okay, for us, for Kiwis, it's the end of the negotiation. You get the contract signed and you file it away. For Chinese folk, they see that as a bit of as the start. Okay, And I'll give an example of that. I was in Nanjing 3 or 4 years ago, arguing about this contract, and we were arguing back and forth about us both not applying the contract. And the Chinese distributor said, "Paul, what was the date of that contract?" And I sort of flicked to the last page, and it was a year or so earlier. He said, "But that was then. That was then. It's different now." I said, "But it's a contract." He said, "But that was then." You know. So it sort of dawned on me that he was. The contract was very time bound back to then. This is now different. So what I do is I use this little thing called MOU. It's a Memorandum of Understanding, and it is amazingly simple. All you do is you get a piece of paper, put a line down the middle, and you say on the left-hand side, I'm going to do these things. Right-hand side, you do these things. Okay? So you might put 6 or 8 bullet points for I'm going to do. It could be branding, could be IP, could be distribution, it could be marketing. And on his side, you put what he's going to do. 6 or 8 bullet points, right? At the bottom of it, you put your chop. If you don't have a chop, go and buy one. About $10, a big round stamp, you know, a seal, company seal. They mean nothing, but that they are symbolic. And you put your chop down the bottom, and he puts his chop on his side, and you sign it. Okay, and it looks impressive. You get nice paper, and that it's legally it's useless, but what it is, it's a start of your contract. So if you do your MOU, and you do this, we do that. After 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months, what you find is that he hasn't done some of theirs, and you may not have done some of yours. So you change it. So you just twink it out or black it out, and then you re-sign it. And then after 6 months or 8 months or 12 months, once you start getting a good working relationship, then you take the MOU to a lawyer, and he could knock you up a contract. But don't get the contract first, because you'll just waste your money. Okay? MOU, get that going, and then you can go to a contract. And besides, if you do a contract, they don't follow it, what are you going to do? You can't enforce it. You can't go anywhere. So rip it up. And I found at Adesio I had 14 MOUs on the go at any one time, and I was just updating them. I actually didn't go to contracts. I just found the MOU was fine. Worked really well. Okay, that's number one. You with me so far? Okay. Now this one here is, and again, I'm not being disrespectful, but a lot of stuff will come out of China that may not be the truth. Okay, I'll stick that as PR as PC as I can. I used to get receipts that were for a parking guy. We had a guy in Nanjing who didn't have a car, but we paid his taxis. And after a while, the Chinese lady in our department said, "Paul, we've got parking receipts now. Did you buy him a car?" I said, "No, he gets buses and taxis." He said, No, we're paying parking." I said, "We're not. We don't have a company car." So I rang up this guy, Danny his name was. I said, "Danny, have you got a company car?" "No." I said, "Well, you're sending through parking receipts." And he said, "Oh, yeah, my mate gave them to me." He said, "They're too valuable to throw away, so I'm claiming them." I said, "Danny, that's a bit dishonest." He said, "No." He said, "These are worth money. You can't throw them away." And his other guy didn't want to claim them, so he's claiming them. You know, it was so funny that I couldn't tell him off. But I said, "Danny, don't send those in. Just send in your taxi ones." But I can't read the receipts, you see, so I don't know what the hell this is. Could be a massage or. So the thing is that when you get what Kiwis would call lies, they don't see them as lies. We're saving face. Okay. So it's not a real lie. It's just we're saving face and protecting each other. Another good example about saving face is a very intelligent Chinese young lady was with a big distribution company, and she was really looked after. She got promoted. One day she went to her boss and said, "Oh, boss, I need to leave the company to look after my mother. My mother's dying of cancer." And the boss said, "Oh, that's terrible." And they had a farewell and that. And then the boss caught up with her a few months later and said, "Oh, how are you? How's your mum?" "Mum's fine." "What do you mean, how's Mum?" "I thought she was dying." He said, no, I just made that up because I couldn't tell you I was leaving. I couldn't resign because you've been very good to me. Get it? You know? So you get lots of stories out of mainland China, and I just get them checked. For example, if you get an ISO 14001 document, go and get it checked. If you get CVs, go and get them checked. Documents, stuff like that, just get them checked. And they could be okay, but they may not be okay. So I get everything checked. But on the positive side, I really admire the protocol and etiquette in China. And when you're sitting having a banquet, you follow the protocols. You know, you sit where you're told, and you do all that protocol stuff. You respect the business card. You don't write on it or put it in your back pocket. So I try and follow protocol. The other thing I do is I try and learn some phrases. Every time I go to China, I'll learn half a dozen phrases, and I'll try them out on my distributors there. You know what they do? They say, "Paul, your Chinese is so good," and I know it's crap, but they love you making an effort. Okay, if you make an effort, and even though it's awful, they will really. Is that right? They will applaud you for making an effort, and it's good to learn. You're sitting in the plane, learn some phrases and try them out. Okay, this was my one of the things I never ever budged on. In 3 companies, I never budged. I always got money up front. And one of the reasons I got up front is that my distributors got money up front, and their sub-distributors got money up front. So there's basically very little credit. So I used to deal in New Zealand dollars. I didn't use RMB and I didn't use US. But in time, I think Kiwis will be under more pressure to use RMB and to use US. LCs, letter of credits, you know, the gold standard for trading, and they're not called irrevocable for nothing. So if the 2 banks agree, you will get paid. So I did move to telegraphic transfer once I had a good relationship with them, and TT's a little bit easier, but certainly the bankers here will certainly endorse LCs as the gold standard for trading. But I also used to say to them, they'd all ask for credit. I just say, look, if you can't afford it, buy someone else's. You know, I never got into that debate about credit. I never ever get credit. Now, what I used to do, I had a cunning plan called rebates. Now, remember, I'm selling this stuff expensive, so I made Good Health EasyO as expensive as I could. I said to them, what I'll do is, if after 3 months of trading, I'll give you back a rebate in cash. But I said, but what I want to do is to use the rebate to help with your marketing spend. Okay. Now I knew that the rebate is not going to all go on marketing. Most of it's going to go in the back pocket. But I did try and get as much marketing spend as I could. So what I'd do is I'd say to them, if the rebate's in cash, it's typically 5%. If it's in stock, I'd give them 10% because I'm working on a 50% gross margin. That would really confuse them because they wouldn't know whether to take the twice as much stock or half as much cash. A lot of them took cash. So what I used to do is say to them, I'll give you the cash. Say they bought $100,000 worth. I might give them $5,000 to $10,000 worth of cash and ask them to spend it on marketing. And some of them would, and others would just struggle with that. But those who did, I would then start increasing the rebate spend, give them 6%, 7%, 8%, because I knew it's going on marketing, and marketing helps both of us, doesn't it? Helps our brand, helps their sales. But as I say, you've got to watch the receipts closely because they'll be probably bogus. When I used to get sucked in here initially, I was a bit naive. I'd go over there, we'd sit in the flash hotels and we'd chat, and we'd talk, we'd have the banquets and the gambé and the drinks and the massage and all that sort of stuff. And then I'd fly off. But I learned one day, I went to a warehouse, and this woman was in Guangzhou. She had years of stock, you know. And I said, well, they got so much stock. She said, I'm waiting for you to put the price up, and then I'm going to sell it. I said, but it's going to go off. And another warehouse I went to had no stock. So then, after finding these issues, I then took a lot closer look at what my distributors are doing. And then I used to start going into the stores and getting a translator and asking the retailer how the distributor is going. And then you find some horror stories. Like they've never seen them or they're not doing a good job. So if you're in China, always go and see your retailers where your product is. And if you've got a distributor there, go and see his warehouse. Go and see their warehouse because it might be scary. You need to see their warehouse. Okay, yeah, so the rebates to me work really well, and the Chinese culture like that sort of thing. They like getting a check, which they can then put half of it back into marketing. So that worked really well for me, particularly when I did sell the product at a premium price. I put the price up and then give them a rebate. I find Kiwi exporters pretty naive, and they want to do everything. They want to go to Guangzhou, they want to go to Shanghai, and they want to go to Beijing. But I had some really good success in the little cities like Wuxi. Wuxi's where Lion Brewery set up. Nanjing, Tianjin, where Anton just talked about. Qingdao, Hangzhou, some really good tier 2, these are mostly tier 2 cities, 5-6 million people. But what I like about the tier 2s is that they're more receptive. They're way more friendly than Shanghai, way more friendly than Beijing. And there's not thousands of bloody people there trying to sell to them. So lot more, I got a lot more traction in the little cities than the big cities. And Shanghai's hard. It's also very expensive. It's just a big rat race. So my favourite of those was Nanjing, Wuxi, Hangzhou. We had some damn good people there who did proportionately way better than the Shanghai, Guangzhou, Beijing people. What else? Yeah, as you get away from Beijing, you notice they become more affluent, they're more Western, and certainly, follow the trends. And as Anton said, that's where he heard it from. China is like Europe, and you wouldn't get a distributor to look after all of Europe, would you? If someone said, "I'll do all of Europe for you," you say, "Oh, hang on, I want a guy in France and Italy and Greece." So in China, you never get anyone to look after all of China because no one's got those skills. Beijing doesn't get on with Shanghai, and Shanghai hates Hangzhou. So in my experience, it's very much a regional place. So if you're in Guangdong, which is the province for Guangzhou, those people will know Guangdong, but they won't know Beijing. They won't know, that's my experience. Is it's very, very regional. Consumer research. Yeah, this is an error I made. I used to be an enthusiastic Kiwi guy, and I'd run around with my New Zealand branding, and I learnt in the yoga category. I remember a seminar. I took some Greek yogurt. You ever know what Greek yogurt is? It's pretty sour. It's thick. It's creamy. It's beautiful yogurt, right? And I just put this all out for the Chinese people, and they hated it. They just hated it because it's too sour. So then I started thinking, gee, I haven't done any sensory tests here. So I had to take all this thousands of pots of Greek off and go and find some strawberry or honey or some sweet stuff. And finally, the Chinese people loved the sweet yogurt, but they didn't like the tart yogurt. So I used to do quite a bit of sensory. Another error I made, and I made lots of errors. This one cost me about $5,000. I went to a design agency in New Zealand and got a part Chinese, part English pack, right? And I had some beautiful big gold letters, and I had some black, and I had some tigers and lions. It was really good. It was great. So I got different versions of it, different colours, and proudly took it up to China. And I had 14 distributors. They all hated it. They all said, "Oh, that's rubbish." I said, "What do you mean? I've got the gold, I've got the black, I've got the shiny, I've got the tigers. Isn't that good?" And they said, "No, it's crap." I said, "Why?" And they said, "We want authentic New Zealand Kiwi stuff." And I said, "But the Chinese won't be able to read it." It doesn't matter. It's got to be authentic. So I put my designs in the bin and came home. And then I said to the team at home, "We're just sending up the Kiwi pack." And what they did in the customs is put this sticker right on the pack, and the sticker gives the authenticity, right? bit like if we bought a flash balsamic vinegar from Italy, you know, it's got no New Zealand branding, but it's got a sticker saying Sabato or something. You know that's authentic, don't you? So same up there, they just wanted the Kiwi pack, which they couldn't read, but they wanted the authenticity of the sticker. They know it's imported. And why they're so scared is that the mums in particular, who have one child, are very, very wary about food problems, right? So food concerns is really big for mums and dads up there. They're only one child, they want to spend all their money on food and education. So, and they don't want something dodgy that could make the child sick. And a lot of this came from, remember the melamine incident with Fonterra? You know, that was just really scary. 3,000 kids in hospital, half a dozen died. So really awful stuff. So then I started thinking a lot more about research in my latter years in China. And I started doing some quantitative and qualitative. And I was lucky enough to have Trade and Enterprise fund it. And they've got a fund called the IGF, International Growth Fund, and it's dollar for dollar. So I cooked up a plan that was going to cost $600,000 and went to T&E and they gave me $300,000. And a lot of that was around research. But you could get a plan, say, for $10,000 and they'll go halves with you. What else? A route to market. This is a really important thing. So if you, I just implore you to have one take-home point today. If you just remember one thing from the seminar, it is route to market is really important. Now what I mean by route to market is that it's really easy to find a distributor in China who says, pick me, I'll do your stuff. I love your product, I'll sell it for you. That's actually the wrong thing to do. The correct thing to do, and Trade and Enterprise are really big on this, they say identify your strategy first. So your route to market, this basically here is, what percentage are you going to be online? What percentage are you going to be in stores? What percentage is going to be duty free or supermarkets or pharmacies? In other words, work out how you want to engage with the consumer first, get that clear, and then go and find someone who can do it, right? Now for years I did the opposite. I would find a distributor who I liked, but then they default to the route to market. Now I'll tell you what happened. In one instance, I got some distributors for EasyO, great people, friendly, ticked all the boxes, and I thought they were going into retail. I thought they were going to have stores, right? They're going to sell to stores. And one of the directors of Westland, who owned EasyO, said, I'm in Beijing, I want to go and see some stores. I said, yeah, not a problem, I'll ring you back. So I rang my Beijing guy and said, can you give me half a dozen stores this director can go and see? You know what? He had none. But I said, yeah, but you're buying a heap of stuff off us. He said, yeah, but it's all online. Okay? So I thought it's going into retail, and they led me to believe it's going into retail. It wasn't. It was all on Taobao. Okay? So this guy's buying $1 million a year, but it's not in stores. And I felt a bit foolish, so I had to ring my director back and say, hey mate, where your hotel is not a good spot. I had to tell him we've got no retailers near his hotel, which was true. And he said, okay, another trip. I said, yeah, another trip. But I thought, by God, I've been caught out. I'm thinking we've got retailers. We bloody don't. It's online.
Just repeat it to slide 2. A lie is not a lie.
What's that? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not like saving face. But the thing is, I couldn't be grumpy at the distributor because they're buying a heap of stuff, right? They're buying okay, they're selling okay, but it's not where I thought it would be.
How is that different though?
What's that?
How is that different?
Well, how's it different? Because I set them up, all their KPIs all around retail metrics. I'm looking for them to sell in retail, but online's totally different because everyone sees the price. Whereas in retail, you can get the price up a bit because you're providing a service, right? You're selling a service in the shop. Now, online, there's no service.
Do you pick your retail?
Sorry?
Do you pick the retail?
Yeah, we were looking at second-tier supermarkets and pharmacies and health food stores. So, and we started off in those areas, but as time went on, Taobao became so seductive that the retail dropped off. and online took off. But I didn't know.
Paul,
Yeah.
would you mind, I'm going to express my ignorance here, can you just explain a little bit what EZO actually is? 'Cause I don't
Oh,
know.
so it's a yogurt powder.
Yeah.
Most people know it here? It's a yogurt powder you mix with water and you put it into a hot thermos and it cultivates.
And this is, you do this at home?
You do it at home, yeah, it's homemade yogurt.
So
yeah.
whether you sell it direct or through retail, it doesn't matter that much?
No, exactly. But I was thinking I'm in retail. And the metrics were all retail and I was measuring them on the metrics, but it wasn't in retail.
How
So-
do you, like, you're saying you're measuring them on the metrics are obviously working, but you're getting a completely different outcome. How do
Yeah.
you-
Oh no, it was all fraud. They just said, oh yeah, we're doing this and doing that. For example, I got them to measure the facings. How many facings have you got? And I'd say 100. You know? You didn't have 100 facings. I don't-
That's online.
Online, yeah, exactly. Online, yeah. 100 faces online. Anyway, I learned. I'm a quick learner. Now, distributors, when I first became CEO of EZO, we're doing $1 million a month, so $1 million a year, one distributor in Guangzhou. Okay, so I said to my sales manager, why have you given all of China to one person? Oh, they're great. They're good. They're wealthy. And I said, no, I don't like that. So anyway, I sat with a distributor and I said, we're going to have multiple distributors in each province. So we're doing $1 million a year when I started. 4 years later, we're doing $1 million a month. But what I did was I had 14 distributors in 14 provinces. Okay, and I had a very simple policy. I said to every distributor, I said one year, one province. I said if you can survive a year, you might qualify for another province. So at the end of the first year, I had 14 distributors, and as Murphy's Law suggests, half of them were rubbish and half of them were quite good. So I sacked the bottom 7 and gave those provinces to the top 7. So you know what happened? The top 7 were thrilled because they got another year in another province, and the bottom 7 were happy too because they could buy off the top 7 in RMB and buy pallet load as and when they wanted it. So it was actually great. I thought I'd get shot at by the bottom 7, but they turned out to be quite happy. So never give China exclusive to one person. The good thing about multiple distributors is it's very competitive and very contestable. So I was learning a lot about other provinces, and Chinese people love to rat on each other. So one would ring me up and say, do you know what the guy's doing in the next door province? And he'd tell me all naughty things he's doing. And then I'd ring up the guy and say, yeah, but what about the guy in the other province? You see, so they're all telling me these stories. So I'm learning lots about what's happening. So I kept the relationship competitive. So I'd let them know that the best distributors will get another year and indeed get another province. I promoted the best ones and I shot the worst ones, and I reviewed their performance 6 monthly. And this worked. We were growing like Topsy. Now, some of you will be thinking, how do you get distributors? And it's a good question. How I got distributors was put notice on our websites, talk to Trade and Enterprise, and just put the word out in China for all my contacts. Just put the word out. We're looking for a distributor for Qingdao, or looking for a distributor in Guangdong, and the word spreads pretty quickly. Okay, I've talked a little bit about this before. So what I used to say, I used to use a bit of child psychology. You know how you get your son to eat his broccoli? I used to do the same thing and say, I say to them, I don't think you can afford this product. It's really expensive. And you know what they do? They'd say, yes, I can. I've got Mercedes. My dad does this. I go to this school. So by saying, starting off premium, you're doing 2 things. You're getting away from the discount issue, and the other thing is you find out how wealthy they are. And so tell me about their Mercedes and their Louis Vuitton and their Prada handbags, and I'd get all the stuff about how flash they were. But the other reason I got to start off really high, remember, is I'm giving a rebate later. Okay, so I'd start off high, and the minute they talked about discount, what's the word I'd use? Rebate. I'd say no discount. I'll give you a rebate based on your performance, and that would get away from the discount story. Because the minute you start discounting, you're on a really slippery slope. Because say you soften and you give a 5% discount. They'll come back and say, but if I buy twice as much, can I have 7%? What if I buy 4 times as much? What if I buy 10 times as much? So you get into this really slippery slope of volumetric deals, which is just horrible. So don't go there. So just say, no discounts, but I'll give you a rebate. And when they talk about discounts, go back and talk about rebates. And the other thing is, what I love about Chinese is that they love good brands. Chinese are great brand buyers. You know, they love expensive brands. They like showing off, and they'll show off your food or beverage or your technology because they want expensive stuff. I'll give you a little example of this. I was in Guangzhou. I was in a pharmacy, and we were selling colostrum. You know, colostrum is the first milk from cows. And we had an infant formula colostrum there, and I was standing there with the distributor, and this really expensive looking lady, she parked a Mercedes outside. She ran in, beautifully dressed, about 35, speaking Chinese, and she's pointing around at all the infant formulas, and our retailer went up and picked my brand. You see, I thought, whoa, Shahad made a sale here, and he picked 2 tins of our colostrum down. And I nudged my distributor and I said, I bet he bought that because I'm here, you know, and he's sort of showing off in front of us. So that they wrapped up the 2 tins of colostrum, about $40, $50 US each, and the young lady shot out, took off. So I said to the retailer, thanks for recommending our one. Did you buy it because I was here? And he said, hell no, she wanted the most expensive product in the shop. It happened to be yours. So you can see what this woman was doing. She said to the retailer, what's the dearest product you've got in the store? And he pointed to us because we're Kiwi, we're expensive. And she didn't care about the brand. She just wanted the most expensive because in her mind that was linked to the best. Okay? So I was a bit deflated that it wasn't because of me, but proud that we were the most expensive in the shop when we got the sale. And she would go home to her friend who's having a baby and say, this is the best product in the shop. She might have said the most expensive, but certainly was the highest cost. Probably there's a correlation between quality. Okay, how are we going? So that's pretty clear. Don't discount, rebate. Now online, this was a huge learning curve for me because when I first started, I didn't know a lot about online. I learned really quick. And Taobao is the trade me in China, and everything happens on Taobao. There's a particular day coming up, 11/11. Has everyone heard of it? 11/11 is called Singles Day. You know, 1/1/1/1 Singles Day. It's the biggest online shopping day in the world. In the world. So all the single people go and buy something, and they give it to another single people. Is that right? It's a big day, and in fact, it's got so big now. It's not just for singles; it's for everybody buys online, and the specials, amazing specials. So the day before November 11, everyone's looking online and getting ready to buy. That's a massive day. So Taobao is massive. It's way bigger, for example, than Trade Me here per person. I mean, Kiwis might use Trade Me once a month or something. They use Taobao every day. They're constantly looking at Taobao, looking at sites. Now, flagship mall, what that means is that if a flagship mall is your mall, your website in China, in Chinese, run by you. Okay. Now you find lots of illegitimate websites in China. At Ezio, there were 500 unauthorized websites. Can you imagine that? 500 people masquerading as Ezio. And I couldn't shut them down because they just pop up somewhere else. And they're buying Ezio from Pack and Save in New Zealand, so it's our product. But there's 500 unauthorized websites, all trying to look like Ezio. We had one authorized one and 499 unauthorized. So, and you just have to suck it up, and you can't get grumpy. You just got. But early on, we didn't have a flagship mall, and what we found was the price was coming down and down and down because they're all looking at the cheapest price. But once you get a flagship board, you can get a bit more control on your pricing. Courier transportation is really good in China. The couriers are amazingly cheap and very efficient. So that's why online works. And if you're in the 50th floor of an apartment block, you're not going to go down to the shops, are you? It's too far. So you get on your phone and you just dial up what you want, and it arrives. Next day, bang, there it is. Website stealing, we've talked about that. Now, blogging, in my formative years, I didn't worry about this, but in my latter years, I was concerned about all these websites and what was happening. So I went to Auckland University, the Masters of International Business, and for a very small amount of money, I'd get Chinese Masters students to do reports for me. And the reports were amazingly good. I pay, for example, $100 for a 5-page report, and they'd go into the blogs in my food and beverage sector and tell me what's going on. Didn't pay a lot of money for it, but the information was invaluable. Now these students, they want to work for a Kiwi company, okay? So they'll work for you for not a lot of money because they want the experience and they want to put something on their CV. So I had a young lady called Kathy Geng, and she just flooded me with information. And I put it in my board report, and the directors loved it because it's all brand new stuff that's happening in China. And so for not a lot of money, and you can't do it yourself. You guys aren't going to go into the Chinese websites, are you? You can't do it. So get a smart young student who will love to do this work. The information's great, it's timely, it's inexpensive. And there's Susan's email if you want to get such a person. But yeah, online's massive. You have to understand it if you go to China. I didn't. I thought I was in retail, but I soon got to know this because this was leaving retail for dead. And in the end, probably of our sales, 90% online, 10% retail. I think this is the last one. NZ Inc. So I'm a real big fan of Trade and Enterprise, Export New Zealand. Catherine, you there? You want to stand up?
Yeah, thank you.
This young lady looks after Export New Zealand. So if Export New Zealand are great at mentoring small exporters. Now, with respect to, no disrespect to Trade and Enterprise, but they're too big and won't look after many of you guys. They'll look after the top 700 exporters in New Zealand, but there's something like 13,000 exporters. So Trade and Enterprise can't look after all of you guys. Catherine will, not personally, but Export New Zealand will. I work with them, and they're great people, and there's lots of mentors there who'll help you guys if you want advice. I'm one of the mentors. You can ring me up for nothing and have a chat about issues. What else? NZ Inc. If you're in food and beverage or something that resonates with New Zealand, use NZ Inc. And one of my great tips is, if you haven't heard of the New Zealand Story, go to Google New Zealand Story. It's a fabulous marketing collateral. Okay, and it's about open hearts, open minds, open spaces. And NZTE, an exporter, will give you this marketing collateral for nothing. All you have to do is register, and you get the whole story. You get the videos, you get the pictures, and they've even done it by sector. So you can go into film or agriculture or IT or whatever. You pick your sector, and they've got photos and videos that you can download and take offshore for nothing. And the quality is outstandingly good. It is such a good story. I'm a big fan of it. So go to NZTE website. There's a nice little survey on their website too you can do. Or certainly go to New Zealand Story. It's a brilliant marketing support for exporters. Remember, New Zealand Story is taken over from where 100% pure used to be, right? 100% pure was our mantra. Now it's New Zealand Story. And I think New Zealand Story is better. Okay, subsidised trips. Again, I found this really cost effective. So what I do is I get the best distributors. I bring them to New Zealand. I give them an economy airfare. If they want business class, they can pay the rest. But them coming to New Zealand work better than me going up there, because when they came to here, they'd understand the culture of the company. They'd meet all the people. We'd go out for dinner. They'd meet my family, and it was just worked really well. And when they went back to China as ambassadors, not just as distributors. It just changed their whole mindset. Doesn't cost a lot of money to really look after them. Yes, I'd offer them incentives and say, right, the most sales in this quarter gets a free trip to New Zealand, and they would bust their bottoms to get down here to see the thing, to see New Zealand and just be involved in our culture. So that's basically it.